Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Syngenta Canada, Alberta Wheat Commission, and C&M Seeds.
We're joined here on Real Agriculture now by Bruce Burnett, Winnipeg Blue Bombers fan and market and weather analyst with CWB Market Research, which is turning into G3 Canada. I noticed the sign outside here at the head office. Bruce still says CWB, but that's changing.
Yes, we're changing. Certainly, the integration of the companies is occurring right now, and so it's an exciting time around here.
All right. Well, we're here to talk about what's going on in the wheat market. Of course, harvest is well underway across Western Canada and ahead of normal so far.
Yes, ahead of normal, but certainly those rains on the long weekends in September have started to set us back, and by next week we'll probably be closer to normal, and we'll actually, more than likely, if the forecast is accurate, move behind normal here as we've basically harvested most of the southern prairies, and we're now moving in the central and northern areas, and unfortunately it looks like we're getting a fair amount of rain, not only from the Labor Day weekend but also upcoming here by the middle of next week.
How's the crop looking so far? What do you hear?
Well, in terms of quality to date for the wheat and durum cereal crops in general, it's been very good. Proteins have been higher than last year by about 0.6 to 0.8%, depending on the area, as well as in the dry areas of the drought region, we're seeing significantly higher proteins than last year. So overall, our protein levels are going to be higher this year. Unfortunately, with these rains, as we move the harvest northwards, we're going to see more lower grades of wheat. And possibly some higher feed wheat supplies even, unless we see some warmer, drier weather here in the second half of September.
Are we seeing confirmation of what you expected from the drought earlier in this season?
Depending on the crop, the yields are coming in maybe a little bit better than what were expected, but really not a lot better. They're still substantially below what the last couple of seasons, certainly in a lot of those drought areas, were. So we're seeing a smaller crop definitely still, but in terms of the initial expectations, farmers are being pleasantly surprised, but it does depend a lot on the crop. Certain crops just didn't perform as well this year as other ones did, but certainly in the cereals especially, we're seeing a bit better yields than what were being expected.
How about from a global wheat market perspective? Supply-demand fundamentals continue to be on the bearish side with a large global wheat crop?
Yes, today's USDA report indicated we're looking at a global production over 531 million tons, which is record by a significant amount. And big crops in Europe and the Black Sea region are pressuring the market. We're seeing this again in the winter wheat markets and winter wheat sales. Into the Mediterranean region, those prices have been dropping significantly. If you take a look at the gas tenders from Egypt, they've been dropping now into the low $180 CIF range, or in other words, delivered to Egypt. That's about a $60 a ton drop since the beginning of the winter wheat harvest in the northern hemisphere. So we're seeing pressure in the wheat market. I think at some point here we're going to bottom out. Certainly the USDA numbers today on the corn side in the U.S. are a bit constructive, and as I'd like to always say, there's a base level that wheat can only go down to versus the corn value, as the corn situation maybe isn't quite as negative as what the wheat one is currently on a global basis.
Are we also getting to the point where the market has a pretty good handle on what there is for supply?
Well, certainly on a global supply basis, we've got most of the harvest off now. There's still Australia, there's still the South America, so Brazilian harvest as well as the Argentinian harvest yet to come, and that's going to occur closer to Christmas time. But those two countries, we're seeing a fairly stable crop in Australia this year because they've received some fortunate rains despite the very, very strong El Nino developing. So that's going to keep their production up when compared with previous years here. In South America, it does look like they're going to have a pretty good crop just because of the fact they've been getting some good rains throughout Argentina and into the growing areas of Brazil. With the stronger El Nino, you also expect maybe a bit of excess moisture in both of those countries in the wheat growing areas, so we'll have to monitor that. Maybe we'll see some impact on their quality this year, but certainly quantity looks to be reasonably good in both countries so far this growing season.
So for farmers marketing their crop as it's coming off the field, or looking at making a plan for marketing it, what should they be watching for if they're looking to sell into a rally? Is there potential summer for an upside move, or will that come from outside the wheat market?
I think probably we'd have to look for something outside the wheat market right now, but we are going to probably form some bottoms in here pretty soon, I would say, on the wheat side of things. So once that happens, then we could rally off of that because, again, the market becomes very, very short in these kinds of circumstances.